Tsar's responsibility was grave. Equally, Gregory bore a heavy burden. Whoa, you shit dog. I'll take you on. Screaming, he brandished his halberd and jumped out in front of Takeshi. It was an action taken with the readiness to die. The immovable one residing in Gregory's honed body had now evolved into the unique skill steel body. The extra skill immovable one, which originally had the simple authority to strengthen the body and increase defense, now strengthened his body even more robustly by reflecting Gregory's will. Furthermore, he had unified with the Earth Knight War Gnome, strengthening his body to the utmost limit. However, even so, that was, after all, an authority effective only at the level of humanity. I know. Even my honed steel body wouldn't work on that hateful dog bastard, Ranga. But still, I'll prove I can buy at least a second. Even if he died, there was a possibility that the god Luminous would resurrect him. In fact, reports stated that a revival drama had occurred early on in the eastern battlefield. This raised morale and removed anxiety from the warriors, but Gregory's judgment was different. He understood that just because someone was a user of holy magic borrowing a god's power, they couldn't possibly spam such absurd miracles. Those miracles had limits. It might become possible again with time, but that was truly something only God knows. For his part, Gregory simply performed what he could do meticulously, without relying on such miracles. And after that, someone survived and passed down the tale of my heroic figure. That was all he wished for. If someone survived, it meant humanity's victory. He could boast in the afterlife that his life had meaning. It was exactly what Luminous had encouraged. To find value in one's own life is good fortune. Facing death, Gregory's field of vision expanded, falling into the illusion that he was looking down upon the western battlefield. At the edge of that awareness, his former colleague Glenda was scolding her comrades. Glenda's left arm was missing, but there was no color of despair on her face. She fired the handgun in her right hand, taking down a grotesque monster. You lot, use your heads a little. Healing takes 60 seconds. Resurrection is once every 5 minutes. If you're going to die, check the timing first. Don't waste God's miracle. Glenda had not given up on victory. They healed minor injuries themselves and relied on Luminous's miracles for hopeless major injuries. On top of that, they were timing their high-risk suicide attacks. Unlike Gregory, it seemed Glenda had already died several times in this battle. You gotta be kidding. That embodiment of selfishness, Glenda, is acting as a model for her subordinates. Moreover, she seemed to fully believe that the miracle of resurrection would happen endlessly. Incredibly crazy. And yet, so very reliable. Learning this new side of Glenda, Gregory felt ashamed of himself. Upon realizing this, he gravely reformed his mindset from "I'm going to die anyway" to "I will continue to protect even if I die." The next moment, Takeshi's arm closed in on Gregory. Vicious claws that looked capable of pulverizing a human were swung down from above Gregory's head. Within his dilated perception, Gregory activated steel body to his fullest and braced himself. Since he couldn't match the speed, he had no choice but to sacrifice his body to catch the blow. That was synonymous with death, but Gregory had no regrets. On the contrary, he felt ready to stand in the way as many times as necessary. However, now, the voices arrived after the fact. Takeshi, who had been right before his eyes, was blown away by a black gust of wind that seemed to spring out of nowhere. It's a success. Well done, Gobta. Just as you assessed, it seems he is not used to human-like movements. It was the duo of Gobta and Ranga. Since arriving on the battlefield as reinforcements, they had been biding their time, waiting for the decisive moment. If Takeshi had remained a beast, they would have had to take a different tactical approach. But because it had taken a humanoid form, a certain possibility had occurred to Gobta. It was a bitter memory of a failure they themselves had once experienced. An unfamiliar body, no matter how strengthened, the stronger it is, the harder it is to handle. Because they remembered this from actual experience, Gobta and Ranga waited for that moment. Hiding in the shadows, observing Takeshi the whole time. Then, seeing Takeshi move, they sprang into action. They had used Gregory as bait, but all's well that ends well. I was dragged along into this too, said Kumar, looking disgruntled. Since Gopta's plan had achieved the desired result, she seemed to decide that complaints could wait. She was casually cutting down Demon Lord Seed-class cryptids with her tails. She appeared to have quite a lot of pent-up frustration, and the cryptids became the outlet for it. Go forth. Transforming her tails into the 8 legions, Kumara issued the order. The counterattack began. While Gobta and Ranga kept Takeshi occupied, the battle intensified with the momentum to exterminate the rest of the horde. Incidentally, as a side note, I recognize that man. It's the guy you used as a chew toy, Ranga-san. He was a sturdy one. Such a conversation may or may not have taken place. As for Gregory, who had been saved, his feelings were also complicated. Tisk, ruining my resolve like that. This is why I hate dogs. Gregory, who would come to be known in later ages as the dog-hating immovable fortress, covered up his embarrassment with those words. On the southern front, this area was Ultima's exclusive stage. Unlike Akishi, Swim had been rampaging across the battlefield from the very beginning. It was Ultima's efforts that had intercepted this and kept the damage in check. Swim naturally swims through the interstellar space of the otherworld, a domain vaster than countless universes combined. Its maximum combat speed reaches sublight speed, and it is a natural disaster incarnate that has destroyed countless interstellar nations by leaping through space via otherworld gates that it generates as easily as breathing. An otherworld gate is a type of teleportation gate, a spatial transfer intended for ultra-long distance travel on a cosmic scale. By setting these up in various locations, Swim could easily travel back and forth to any place it had visited once. Such as Swim, but in terms of existence value alone, it rivals a true dragon. Its massive body reaches 2,000 meters even in its normal state, and if Swim desires, it can grow even larger. Just by letting its speed and destructive power speak for themselves, it is peerlessly fierce, an existence that deviates from the concept of individual combat. Although it can change its body size freely, a little thought makes it clear that it is unsuited for activity on the ground. Even if this is the vast cardinal world, that fact does not change. Even so, when called by Mama, there is no refusing. Excited by this first experience, Swim manifested on the ground. Swim intended to assume a size suitable for activity on the ground, but it seemed it was still too huge. It adjusted its size a bit more, taking on a form that allowed it to move reasonably well. The distance to the enemy was far too short. Normally, reaching maximum speed would be impossible. However, Swim was different. It could reach sublight speed right from the start, enabling it to overrun any enemy it touched. It was supposed to be the same this time. Like countless interstellar nations, this planet was supposed to be transformed into a land of death. However, Swim faced interference. Swim swims through the battlefield at sublight speed. Ultima predicted this and evacuated those who would otherwise have fallen prey to it. Are you guys taking this seriously? It's over if this thing gets outside the holy field, you know. While barking out orders like that, Ultima herself stood before Swim to guide it. Reading Swim's direction of travel perfectly, she placed teleportation gates in its path. By doing so, she manipulated Swim's course and succeeded in keeping it in this location. That was not all. She requested Valgren's cooperation to set up the 8 Gates formation. Valgren had been striving to recover her strength by integrating all her split bodies, but she pushed herself to answer Ultima's request. While remaining on the eastern front, she opened a gate at the location Ultima desired. Are you sure? You understand, right? This condition is disadvantageous for the defender. Of course I understand. But you know, rather than fighting while protecting dead weights, I'm lighter on my feet alone. In response to the worried Valgren, Ultima answered without hesitation. In reality, Swim was in a league of its own. If asked whether she could defeat it, the answer was that it would be difficult even for Ultima. However, she could bide time. Rimura's wish is to have as few casualties as possible. To uphold that, dragging it into a one-on-one fight is strategically the best option. At least, that was the decision Ultima made. Valgren also grasped Ultima's intent. Understanding its utility fully, she acceded to the request. And now, Ultima had lured Swim into the 8 Gates formation, and was putting up a desperate resistance. Though called 8 Gates, there is actually only one. It was simply a vast space expanding, optimal for a one-on-one. Inside this, Swim was swimming freely in all directions. Its target was Ultima, but it was failing to achieve its goal. From Ultima's perspective, it was an easy job just playing tag. Just as I thought. This thing doesn't have much intelligence and relies on brute force, so reading its aim is easy. Ultima is in high spirits. Swim was peerlessly fierce, but that was against opponents who didn't run away. Swim's attack methods are diverse. Representative ones include body slams and direct attacks with tentacles, but they were meaningless against an opponent it couldn't catch. In that case, Swim changes policy. Spear particle torpedoes, possessing destructive power capable of shattering even a planet in a single hit, are generated from Swim's infinitely regenerating tentacles. They automatically track the target at sublight speed to deliver a killing blow, but Ultima nullified them all by using copies dummies created from magicules as decoys. The dummies have no combat power. They are merely simple bodies made of solidified magicules, so they can be created almost inexhaustibly. They are useless against intelligent beings, but they were extremely effective against Swim. Here, for the first time, Swim recognized Ultima. However, not as an enemy. Not as a way to kill time like usual, but as something it wanted to break of its own volition. It was exactly the thought process of a child given a toy for the first time. Swim, knowing no restraint, used its trump card here. The spirit particle torpedoes didn't work, the only thing left was its favorite, the quantum splash. It is Swim's pride and joy, a domain destruction weapon. Swim has used the quantum splash to reduce numerous star systems to nothingness. If life had been born there, it would play a different game, but otherwise, they were just in the way. In Swim's experience, nothing has endured the power of this attack. Although it is the first time using it on the ground, Swim is looking forward to the result. And, unfortunately, at this timing, a present from Ivorage was delivered to Swim. As soon as Swim finished firing the quantum splash, it transformed into a human form. A violent blast ravages the southern front. The 8 gates formation constructed by Valgrind collapsed, unable to withstand the internal pressure. There is a possibility that there was a vulnerability in strength because Valgrind herself was not the core. However, even so, it was an undeniable fact that an abnormal phenomenon defying the laws of physics had occurred. The reason it didn't result in numerous deaths was that a warning was issued by Ultima just before the collapse. Upon receiving this, under the command of Varin and Zonda, 200 members of the Black Numbers had deployed a composite barrier to protect Njurn. Furthermore, Valgrind twisted space. As soon as she sensed the anomaly well in the east, she instantly manipulated the main stream of the shockwave to head towards the heavenward tower. It was a brilliant judgment. Thanks to this, the holy field avoided collapse. Even so, the damage is immense. Inside the isolated limited space of the 8 gates formation, super energy on the scale of destroying a star system raged. It was a power beyond imagination. Had the stage not been the cardinal world, which boasts a durability isolated from other dimensions, let alone the 8 gates formation, the planet itself would likely have been blown away without a trace. That is terrifying. Valgrind broke into a cold sweat. She moved simultaneously with detecting the technique's collapse, but that result was entirely thanks to observing Ultima's activity through the technique. If she had ignored it, it is terrifying to think how much damage would have occurred by now. Still, there was no mistake that it was the best move. Ultima's basic policy was to dedicate herself to stalling that alone. She never tried to defeat Swim, maintaining combat safely without overexerting herself. Getting impatient with this, Swim resorted to violence.